Hi, everyone, and welcome to this last conversation of the NBO Film Festival in 2021. Today, we're having a very special session because we are talking about the film I Am Samuel. Now, this is a film that we haven't actually been able to screen in this festival because, in this edition of the festival, because the film is actually banned in Kenya. And it was banned by the KFCB, the Kenya Film Copyright Board, and making it unavailable to Kenyan citizens to watch. And of course, it has been banned because of the subject matter. There's no allowance of any, oh goodness, I think I'm gonna start again. Christine, do you think you can start me over? Kind of falling over myself a bit.
Yes, we can. I'll just stop this recording and start another one.
Again. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this last session of the NBO Film Festival, the conversations about the films. Today, we're having a conversation about the documentary film, I Am Samuel. We are very sorry to have not been able to screen this film this year in the festival. And this happened because this film was banned by the KFCB, who deemed it not appropriate for Kenyan audiences because of the subject matter. The film follows the life of a gay man living in Kenya and basically documents his life. We at the NBO Film Festival are very, very firmly against this kind of censorship and also very strongly opposed to the idea of regulating what can and can't be shared by the general public. We think that people are entirely capable of making up their own minds about what content serves them. And we also are appalled at the attempts to erase the existence of this film or erase the existence of the LGBTQ community from the consciousness of like the Kenyan public. And so we're purposing to have a conversation without having screened the film with the director, Peter Murimi, who I'm really happy is able to join us today. And the conversation is going to be led by a good friend of our festival, Neo Musangi. Neo has a bit of an unusual bio, calling themselves a professional part-timer in fields ranging from teaching to performing arts and everything in between. And Musangi is also my neighbor and our very good friend. So over to you guys.
Thank you, Shiva. And Pete, I'm really excited to be speaking to you. It's such an honor. And yeah, and also to be the last thing that closes the film festival, I guess. So that's fantastic. So, I mean, there's a lot to talk about with this film, but Pete, one thing. So I need to say this. One of the things is that me, as a Kenyan queer person, we were just fine, happy drinking. And then you went and made a film. And then everyone was online just insulting us. And I'm like, what did you do? It's Pete. He's the one who made the film. So my first question in this conversation, why did you do it?
I know, like sometimes, like especially as a storyteller, like the story finds you. And actually, this particular film and this particular story basically found me in a sense. And it came from a very personal motivation because someone who was really close to me was going through the dynamic of coming out to the parents. And I remember naturally being a storyteller, I was telling this person that there must be a film like somewhere that your parents can relate to. There must be. And so I started looking around, researching, but it was not exactly being a storyteller, like exactly what I wanted. And that's when I decided I will try and make that film. A film that my parents could watch, that other queer people could watch, or even just people like me would watch. And basically, I could say Kenyanize, just to show being queer is as Kenyan as anything else, or in that sense, wider context as African. So that's when the journey began. And I started looking into the issue, and then I met Samuel, and from there, the rest is history.
So you met Samuel after you had already conceptualized the film.
Yeah, so I had the idea of making the film, and when the more I started looking into it, and being a Kenyan, I discovered class was a big issue, and your experience as a queer person, depending on where economically you are, is very different. So actually, the person who I was going to feature as the main character was, I could say, similar to me, who is middle class, and I'm passionately as a storyteller thinking that this is not representative of Kenya. And that's where I said I need to find someone who actually is very representative of the queer experience in Kenya. And Samuel fit the bill. So I met Samuel after going on this journey.
Not to prod into your personal stuff, but how did you meet him? I'm fascinated.
It was it called mutual, because once I came up with the idea, like I really wanted to make the film, the next thing was I was just hanging out with in a lot of queer spaces. I have a lot of queer friends. So it's just like one person led to another. And I was telling everyone, this is what I want to make. And I want something that is very intimate, like it's very honest and raw. And I remember meeting many people, and people, most of them, which I understand, were very skeptical of the project. And especially us, I could say media fraternity, we have known to be not as trustworthy as we should. So initially there's a lot of skepticism. But I remember it was so striking. A mutual friend introduced me to Sam. And in the first, I think even 5 minutes, I'd not finished pitching the story. And Sam just said, I absolutely want to make a film. And he's saying the reason, like I come from a village, and when I was younger, a teenager, I didn't know a grown man who was queer. And it's something that I thought I was alone and very lonely. I also became depressed. And he just said, I need to make this film for the fellow villagers who are coming behind me, so they can know there's a grown queer man, and he's Samuel, and he's as Kenyan as the rest of us.
You know, so this is the things. There's been a history of films on queer people in Kenya, right? At least, I mean, from the history of Stories of Our Lives, Rafiki. Did you anticipate the ban? So, what did you anticipate? What did you think would happen?
The thing is, I knew it'd be a difficult journey. That one I completely knew. But I was thinking like, I have a track record, because I could say the difference between this film and the rest, like this was a documentary in a sense. I could say there's also a lot of journalism in it. And I am basically known journalist in Kenya. So I was thinking like this should get different treatment in a sense, because this is like a real life. This is not a script. So I was saying maybe it being a documentary, it will pose different challenges to the regulators, because they should, I was saying, treat this as a work of journalism, which I was wrong. We didn't stand a chance and we got banned, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But also you seem to have a lot of trust in the KFCB to think, oh, I'm a journalist, so there's credibility there. It's a real story. It's a Kenyan story, right? But one of the things that we know from experience is that out of all the things that you could do, even as an investigative journalism piece, you could uncover everything, child trafficking, you could uncover anything. But queerness seems to me like a subject that's untouchable, right? Don't do it. Don't talk about it, right? You can do your piece of corruption or anything else. But once you talk about queerness, I think there's something that, I don't know, which to me as a person sounds like an acknowledgement of the existence of queer people, right? And queerness in itself. And I'm calling them queers here, even when most of them won't choose to be seen as that. But it's from your experience of journalism then, is there a topic that you can think of about Kenyan lives that would be compared to this untouchability of the subject that don't show it?
You know, that's really shocking because I know, like, I think even I could do a film about the president being corrupt and I would not be banned. But this specific issue, for some reason, it's so threatening to the status quo, and which I do not understand why. But I could go like the silver lining is, because, you know, Stories of Our Lives, Rafiki, now it's I'm Samuel. The thing is, because I've been following this, how Stories of Our Lives performed, like, and how Rafiki, I think the public, like, sometimes the film could be banned, but I think even that is exposure to the public, and by, in a sense, it's validating the existence of queer life in Kenya. So my only thing is, even this being banned, like, rather than say I'm going to give up and not making any film because it's going to be banned, it's part of, I could say, the struggle, but also it's part of the negotiation. Like, every time we keep making, it's basically validating, and but also it's like wearing them down. And I'm just hoping there'll be another film and another film. Like, eventually, I'm seeing there's a difference. I can see that the wall, like, if you're nailing through a wall, like, we'll get to the other side eventually if we keep making these films.
So, I mean, I appreciate the fact that it's a kind of a conscious really building of an aspect, unusual, right? And it's okay, just a minute, there's a chicken in the kitchen. Just a minute. All right, the chicken that's being slaughtered and not in the kitchen, and it's not enjoying. Sorry, this is gonna go into the party. But so I was saying that, you know, it's that building of an archive is important. But I think what bothers me is how much in doing this work, it unsettles the people that it's meant to be in support. Does that make sense? So for instance, every time something like this happens, it's almost like it becomes instantly more dangerous for people. Just because there's a public conversation going on, and especially when the ban happens. Because it feels to me like it's the people being banned, right? It's not so much about the film, and I think something does get into our heads that actually we are truly American. Because the point I don't think is about filmmaking. It's really about the content, you know. And this has been something that I'm battling with about, okay, so if we continue to make this work available and available for public discussion, then what does it mean for the people? You know, and how do we ethically navigate that thing?
Okay. Now, that's a really interesting question. And actually, throughout the process, like in this film, sometimes you'd always want, I don't want to cause more harm than good, in a sense. Like, that's it's really important. And it's something that I kept on, like, big conflict with myself in terms of what will be the impact of this. Two things. The actual people in the film who completely opened up their lives to the world, but also to the wider community. And in a sense, I think sometimes you have to go with your conscience, in a sense. And I was absolutely convinced with myself and Samuel and the people who were involved intimately in the project that the greater good, like that record in history, because what we were attempting to do, like, no matter what happens from this point on forever, there's this document about what queer life was like in Kenya. And sometimes, like, for me, I regret, like, I would want to know what life was in 1952 from the perspective of my ancestors, but I can't. Like, that information kept on being passed down. After a while, it's so diluted, even you don't know what is true and what is false. So we were convinced that it's so important to capture this moment, but also, according to me, in a very, I could say in Samuel's terms and in my own terms, and that is so important. And we think in the longer arc of history, it might have caused, probably, I'm not invalidating the problems it caused, but I'm saying in the longer arc, maybe it was worth it. I don't know. But the thing is, I don't think I have a right or wrong answer, but our motivation was absolutely from the right place.
Of course, I think there's no, of course it's worth it, you know. First, it's a beautiful film. It's a really beautiful, and I think Alex is such a beautiful boy, Shem. He's really beautiful, you know, and just a good person. And there's a lot of, not exactly joy, but it's something that's really transferred about how this group of boys, their friends, how they live, you know. And it's encouraging. And I think that's why the band is so tragic, because it's Kenyans just so that these are just people who have friends and have networks of living, and they suffer and they live this way. I think it would have really been helpful, because I think you're right, thinking of middle class Kenyans and queerness, where it looks like, you know, it kind of taps into the idea that, oh, this idea is foreign, it's for rich kids, it's for just seeing real people in whatever part of Nairobi they're in, or whatever part of Kenya that they're in. I think that would have been important. And it feels like such a disservice for the Kenyan public to not, you know, see that. But also, the other thing I was going to ask, besides the safety of the community, of course, it's about the people who are in the film. And in this case, I mean, I hope Alex and Sam and them are finally safe. But the other thing is their parents in this village, right? Are they all right? Are you in contact with them? You know, how are they taking it? Because that was such a rapture kind of, you know.
Thing. So throughout the process, like as you say, actually Samuel and Alex, it looked like it was completely unsustainable for them to be in Kenya, especially when the film was coming out. So they left. But we have been working like very closely with the family, with the parents, the father and the mother. And we talk actually almost every week. So we have a system in place in case there's security concerns for them. But more importantly, like in these things, I think sometimes physical security actually, it is important, but also there is that security about losing your safety net, like from the community, and also like mental, like really, really important. And we have worked really closely to make sure that they still have some sort of support in that community in the situation, and it's happening. So it was actually absolutely important. And that's, I think, sometimes the government is behind, because actually the community were accommodating in trying to maintain this safety net, because it's one of their own. This is your cousins, this is your in-laws. So they were prepared to provide that and support them in case of, so the community itself really put this net around the family. And I really think sometimes if the powers that be actually just let us discuss the situations in have an open dialogue, like the amount of progress that we'll be able to make will be mind-blowing. Because this is a very small example in a small community that, yes, it was a shock, but they reacted, adjusted, and they said, it's our person, it's our sisters, it's our brothers, we'll protect them.
Fantastic. But then, so the coming out seems to have happened along the documentary making. When you went to Western Kenya to meet Simon's parents, what was the project? What did they tell them? What did you tell them this was about?
So this thing, basically, it happened in stages. So initially, I just said, I'm making an intimate film about your son. I'm very interested in him, who's into netball, he lives in Nairobi. So, and I was doing that. And then halfway through the process, when there was a confrontation about Alex being the boyfriend and he's queer, that's when again, the dad was like, is this film about him being queer? And then I was like, yes, it is. And also we had to basically reconcile. And it took like the same time Samuel was away, like I was away, and then we had to reconcile. And actually he came later on and said, actually, a film like this is very important for parents who are going through exactly what I'm going through. And I just want to share that, and hopefully other families can learn from us.
So Samuel didn't talk to his father for a couple of months. Right?
Pardon?
He didn't speak to his dad for a while.
Yeah, so
it
was 6 months. Like during the filming, 6 months they lost in contact. And then actually what happened, it's the mom who was the first person who said, I want to see my son. And my son must come back home. And the mom just told the father, you sort out your issues, but my son is coming. And to me, in this film, like, because also I really try to not like tell a lot, but just to see. But what is really important in this film, although the mother is very silent, but she has this unspoken power in the film. And that is something I think like very, very important. Also something I could say like we could not learn from, but take away from that dynamic. Because she's the one who called Samuel and said, come back home, everything is okay. And she's the one who basically calling Samuel and Alex twins, but she finds ways of accommodating his son and the partner, but in a way that she can explain to the neighbors. So it was really interesting to see the mother's role in this family.
She's such a brilliant person, honestly. Every actor, she's really brilliant, and this is so she's very intimate with her son. I mean, not to give away the thing with the facial, I would say, I think this woman knows something, But then what I was going to ask is, I expected more of Samuel's netball. Like the netball coaching and the playing, but there wasn't much about that. Why? Is that a choice that you made, or that that wasn't the story?
Yeah, so actually when we were making the film, actually I filmed quite a bit of that, but what became important actually was the relationship Samuel and his parents and the relationship of Samuel and Alex. And so once we prioritized that relationship, and especially with the father and son, and the way we were telling the story, it's basically, it was not him speaking, it's actually you observing what he's going through. And that's when you need time to develop. Every time you see him, you learn something. So we tended to focus the film on that. And that means this other stuff took a hit, but it wasn't that important because it was an emotional journey. And that was the core of this film. So the netball is good, but it is not important to our emotional journey.
I think people are doing, we have an audience. Oh my God, it was just the two of us vibing, which is fantastic. I was happy to just like chat, and we could have gotten into the details because I've not been watching that people are doing. So that scene, where were you when this was happening? But I mean, like, there's also something very playful about, especially like at the end, right? With the hide and seek, and when the father is like, they're playing like children. And I wondered whether that was scripted or actually this was just a day in their lives. Whether actually you play like this.
Even I was personally, remember, we were going together to the village. And even I remember I was under a tree board with my camera, actually taking a siesta. And then I just see them like running around. And everybody else was like, what's happening? These two guys, like the father was wondering, the mother, even the neighbors are like, what's this? And then I was like, okay, I just picked my camera and started following them around. But to me, I remember the symbolism of that. They felt now, they were at a point where they felt safe at home and they could be really playful with each other. And this is one of the, so important in this film, I thought, especially with LGBTQ stories, sometimes it's very doom and gloom, but I wanted to show some playfulness, some happiness, but also basically it's a love story as well. There's these two people who love each other and actually have a really good relationship that even sometimes I'm envious of. And I really admired that filming them. That was like really special. Because I can't imagine being with my partner at my parents' place. I don't think I could go running around.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're running around and asking everybody whether, oh, have you seen him? But it's like, I think I want this freedom for myself. This kind of freedom where I can be this playful without like the burden of being an adult or the burden of like having to feel like, oh, what will people think? And I thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna take questions from our audience, but I have one final ask. So I think that just before at the opening of the film, which almost made me stop watching, the scene with Samuel's friend being beaten up, which also I thought went on for a little while, you know. And I was like, oh, is this one of those things where I'm gonna not be able to sleep because, of course, it falls into the story, the violence, right? Which most of us have experienced and witnessed and heard. And I thought, why did you include that scene?
Because if you watch the rest of the film, like this violence is also a reality and it's a very possible outcome in Samuel's life. And initially that scene we had it, but it wasn't there. And we thought also the film was looking like this is very happy place. But these guys are living on the edge, basically of life, like one wrong turn, one wrong person, and someone could be beaten up like his friend was. So we thought for context, like at the beginning, it was really important to say, yes, this is a love story. This is a story between a relationship on father and mother, but this is the context of this guy. This is what's happening here. So that's why we included that horrible scene, which is so painful, and also the context of the law at the beginning. And I remember, the thing is for me, like people say it went long, but I remember when it happened and Samuel actually was watching the clip on his phone, and he watched the whole thing, which is much longer than that. And it was really traumatizing, basically, for him, because this is his friend, this is in his neighborhood. And sometimes when the worst, we human beings, like if we tend to sanitize how horrible we are, so we can take it for granted. And I thought it's important for people who watch it to feel the same pain that the community was feeling at that time. And that's why it was there, like with all its ugliness.
So did Samuel supply that clip?
Yeah, no,
so what is that footage?
I got it from him. Like he was watching it, like when it was happening, like he got the clip and he was watching it. Like him at that time, like he was very fresh and raw. And I have a film of, I filmed him watching it and he's crying, but it didn't work we could have included it, but anyway, it didn't work out.
Yeah, that was painful. But it's familiar as well. So that's why I found it very intense. And I thought, oh no, there's a fear that it causes, just realizing that you are this available to violence, even as most Kenyans are available to violence, that your body is accessible in a way that's so different, and you need to be humiliated. It's not like, in downtown Nairobi in the 90s when they would be beating up people because they've stolen something and they want to
Mm.
burn them. They didn't have to strip them, but I think it's something about how queer people are violated physically that always has to tie to your body in ways that about your sexuality. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be stripped. You know, you have to be reminded that you're a man. You have to see what you have. And I think that's always quite difficult. Yeah, but anyway, I'm going to take questions. If of course busy. Why are you like this? Have you seen it? Oh, Billy says mine is more of a statement than a question. So Kenyan. I've watched the movie. Thanks. Thanks, Billy. Oh yeah. So Shiva's question, I'm interested in how long the filmmaking process for and how you build trust. Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. You want to respond to that?
So filming, it was 5 years of shooting. And the thing is, with this kind of film, like basically me and the main character, Samuel in this case, once we were on the same page, he had his motivation why he wanted to make the film. And I had mine. And we both agreed, like, let's do it. So now what happened is he introduced me to his world, but that also took time. You know, he introduced me to Alex, his partner, and he told Alex, let's film. And then I was like, yes. But you know, even at that time, I'm still a stranger to Alex. So it takes time for Alex to basically suss me out, see if I'm trustworthy, and us to know each other. And so that takes months, maybe, for you to film properly. You know, that someone can say, yeah, I give you permission to film. But when you come to the room, they're aware you're there. So also like they're very careful how they speak. So it takes months for people to completely just relax and forget you're there and get used to you. And same thing in the village. It took quite a few visits. Like they say, we agree, you can film, everything is fine. But for me to get the natural conversation, natural reaction, that takes time. And that's why it took 5 years. Most of it was penetrating through to get the trust.
And also, I'm surprised that Alex actually, I mean, you look like you're a trusted person. I will trust you. But Alex has quite a tragic story, you know.
Pardon?
And I thought, Alex's story as well, the unsafe story, you know, and I thought this must be really painful and to expose yourself, so to speak, to somebody with in such a vulnerable position, it must have been really hard. And also because that looks very raw, the relationship with him and his parents, or the lack of a relationship looked very raw to me. I thought, wow, and you agreed to, you know, to be filmed.
Yeah, no, I guess like for both of them, which I think is very true. Sometimes like living in a big secret. After a while, the film became a place to vent and like basically release. So sometimes it ended up during this process, they also needed like to be talking to me because I'm the only person who basically they could talk about everything because I knew all aspects of their lives. And so it became also a bit of therapy for them. You know, when Alex's parents, basically, he was having that issue going on with the father. Actually, he told me first. I'm the first person he told, like, this is what's happening. And I think this is sometimes, it became a very mutual beneficial relationship because for them, it was a good release.
So do you think Samuel's mom would now consider you the third twin? Because she seems to like you a lot. It's like,
Consider me the first?
no, I'm asking whether she would consider you now a third twin, a third in the twinship.
No, I was considered like I was the older brother because I'm older than both of them. So normally they're like your adopted son. So even they keep on asking me like, where are the twins? Where have they gone?
Wow. And have you told them?
Yeah, no, they're in touch. They're in touch. Now I'm saying when I was there, because sometimes, which is true, like those guys never left each other. Like going to the shop, like we go together, going everywhere they're attached to the hip. So even I was basically not as attached to the hip as they were. They literally never give each other space. They're just all together all the time.
Wow. That's admirable, I must say. I mean, it's a celebration of love. Okay, who's this? Wait a minute, because I want to wrap up, but somebody just say, hello, Neo and Peter. I'm so here for this wonderful convo, but I haven't seen it yet and can't read. Oh, I haven't seen the film. Bravo, Peter, and your thing. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, this is a sad thing that people can't see it. And I always find it difficult to have these conversations because, of course, you don't want to say what the film is about. I'm so tempted to go into the details of the film, but then I'm like, watching, you know. And yeah, do you want to speak about where we are at, whether we think it will be available to Kenyan audiences? Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, the film is available for the rest of Africa, like for free. So anyway, those guys who haven't watched, just let them know it's available everywhere in Africa. You can find ways of watching it. It's on AfriDocs and it's free. Yeah, so, and we are figuring out a way forward with the Kenyan situation. Because right now, as I said, we have like 2 films that preceded this one, and we're trying to learn as much as possible from their experiences and trying to figure out another part. And then hopefully, if there's another film after us, we're going process of elimination, they'll find a solution.
There will be another film. There will be other things. For sure. Yeah, but I mean, thank you so much for making it, and thank you for being bold enough. It's not that you deserve a cookie, but you're a really good filmmaker. So you did a good job. And I think there's something to be said about the courage to tackle things that, the people in power don't want to be dealt with. And yeah, but I mean, even as a conversation starter, and I think this is the one thing that we don't say enough, is how censorship actually forces us to all have a conversation about the things that are being censored. So even as I say about your community went and made a film and people came at us, the conversation happens, in whatever way that it does. So I think there's work there that's done, that we could consider done, that people have said whatever they need to say, and we've had this debate. I mean, my favorite thing, which is really dangerous for me to do, is to go onto YouTube to read comments. I should not do it, but I go there because I actually want to, it's the way you know where people are. It's what are people thinking about this stuff? And I think there were comments on the trailer, there was, randomly, and the clip with the new Ezekiel, which I don't know what his name is, the censorship person. On his clip, there were comments about people just, talking about fairness, and I thought that was important. So yeah, well done to you and to your team, Tony and everybody involved, and Samuel and Alex, and I'm very proud of his parents, to be honest. I think his parents would be my friends. So the next time you're going to Western Kenya, I want to come. I really like them.
Actually, it's very soon. I will let you know very, very soon.
Yeah, I want to go. I want to get there.
Okay.
I want to be part of that prayer session where it was like, Sophie, thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with us. And we hope that, eventually people can find ways of watching the film. And that we can more, we can have a conversation that's a lot more. And I hope that it can be screened in Kenya so that next year when the NBO Film Festival is happening, then we can see it, because I don't think we can keep going on this way. That every time NBO Film Festival is happening, there's a film that we are discussing that has been done. It's just not okay. It's not cool. And we want to see these films, and they're being made here about us and by us, and it's important. Yeah, but congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Pleasure being here. I enjoyed the conversation, in fact.
Thank you. Thank you. People can go have their Sunday evening drinks or whatever it is that you do, or go do your prayers. And thank you, everybody, for coming. And thank you, NBO Film Festival, for inviting us out with that. And yeah. So goodbye. Have fun.
And just to wrap up, I just want to say thank you to everybody again. Thank you so much, Pete, for this beautiful film. Thank you to Tony as well, and for all your filmmaking team, the thoughtfulness and the sensitivity with which you told this story. Neo, thank you so much for guiding us through such a lively discussion. I think you had Pete wondering whether he was going to be okay in bits of the conversation. It's good to have I saw you squirm at one moment, Pete, being like, oh my goodness, hot seat a little bit, hey? But I really think that this is important work that you've done. And I think that the more I really take away what you say, the more persistently we continue to break down these walls and challenge the status quo and demand space and keep on disrupting the conversations that keep, or the forces that are trying to shut down conversations, these very important conversations especially. Thank you everybody who showed up today, taking time out of your Sunday evening, and not much else to say except see you next year. Hopefully we'll have a marathon of all the banned films in one edition of the film festival at some stage in the future.
And thank you, Shiva and Bibi and everybody in NBO Film Festival. Thank you for making the city happen and this country happen in the way that we think. Yeah, thank you.